Hi, everybody. Just thought I'd do a little talk on right-hand arpeggios again. And similar to the first lesson that I did on right hand, where I used a Gordon Lightfoot tune called If You Could Read My Mind. And interesting tune. He does an interesting right-hand arpeggio as well as introduces a counter melody with his fingers inside the arpeggio, which is a really sweet thing to do. So if you're playing in an arpeggio pattern and you add a melody to it, it's buried within the chord. That time I put it on top. I could put it in the middle of the chord. It's quite effective, and quite often people like Bruce Cockburn will add those melodies, and they'll actually harmonize with what he's singing. So it's pretty cool for a solo guitar player to have a harmony line in there that's coming from the guitar while you're accompanying yourself. So the tune I'd like to look at today is a tune called These Days, written by Jackson Browne. I think he was 16, maybe 17 at the time when he wrote it. I've heard him say he was either 16 or 17. So anyway, a young man with a really insightful lyric and some nice solid guitar playing. I don't think he plays the guitar like this on the original recording. He strums chords with it because it's a full band. But whenever you hear him do it solo, of course, he's arpeggiating the chord in this fashion. Just making sure I'm recording this. I think so. Okay. Anyway, it's a basic song, basic chords. It's going C chord. He does a walking bass line so that, his bass is going C in the bass over a C chord to a B in the bass, to an A in the bass, to a G in the bass, to an F on an F chord. It changes to an F chord at that point. So, most people would do an F as a bar like that if they wanted to create that bass line. He does it a little differently, and a lot of guitar players will do this, especially, a lot of people do this anyway, especially if they have a little bit bigger hand or a smaller neck or a combination of both of those things, because it's kind of hard to reach around with your thumb and then also play things on top. But if I were to play an F chord like this, so I've got just the F triad, F, A, C, with my thumb grabbing the F on the bottom. So I could play now a melody F on top string, open, to a D on top, to a C on top, to a B on top. So I could create a melody. And, by not having a bar there, it allows me to move around and create these melody notes. So the way he uses it, and this is kind of a Jackson Browneism, if you like. He holds an F chord quite often, and I think I've always really seen him do it with his thumb. I don't think I've ever seen him play an actual F bar chord, but I could be wrong. But anyway, in this particular song, he's doing it this way, because what he does is at some point when he plays the F chord, he takes the A off. So in an F chord, it's comprised of an F and an A and a C, like any major chord is composed of the root, the third, and the fifth of the scale. So in an F scale, 1, 2, 3, the third note is A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is C. So it's an F, an A, and a C. That's all an F chord is. Doesn't matter, where you play that F chord. They're just F, A's, and C's. So if I get rid of the A and instead put a G in there, I'll get what's called an F sus chord. So it kind of has that sound of incompletion, of unresolved. It's like you're hanging off the side of a cliff or something. So that would be a sus2 chord. So what I'm doing is I'm suspending the second note, F, G, which would be the G note, against the F chord. I could also add a sus4, which would be the other side of the A. So in an F scale, the notes would be F, G, A, B flat, because you're in the key of F. So I could add the F chord with a B flat in there, and I get this sound, which also has that sound of unresolved. So quite often you'll hear this, and it resolves. You may hear going from sus, this is sus4, to F, to sus2, and back to F again. It's quite a common move for a lot of singer-songwriters will do that. In some way, shape, or form. So he does that when he gets to the F chord quite often. So he'll play the F, with that unresolved sound to it. So getting back to the tune now itself, what he does with the right hand is he plays, I'm going to drop my pick for a sec. I choose to play this style with a pick primarily because the pick gives me a clearer bass line rather than a thumpy. If I play this, I'll play a bit of it with the pick and a bit of it without. So you can hear the clarity there if I use my thumb. It's kind of thumpy. So if I use my thumb, quite often I'll mute it. So I get... And again, my reasoning there is to create a different sound with the bass line that sets it apart from the rest of the chord. I like that sound a lot too, because again, it clarifies the bass in a different way, in a more mellow way than it would if I use the pick. So what he does is he goes, the subdivision timing-wise of this arpeggio pattern. I mean, an arpeggio you could play 1 and 2 and. So there's eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. What he uses is sixteenths. So he goes 1 E and Now it sounds like eighth notes if I do it at a slower tempo, but if my beat is like this, and I did eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If I did sixteenths, it'd be like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So it's twice as fast because there's twice as many notes in the same period of time. All these notes get a quarter of a beat each because there's 4 of them in a beat. So every beat, the way you want to count 16th notes is 1 E and a. Just rolls off the tongue nice. So if you have to count while you're playing, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, kind of rolls off nice. So he does kind of a combination. In the first bar, he'll do an eighth note, and he strikes 2 strings for the eighth note. He goes 1 E. So that's the thumb and the ring finger together. I'm holding a C chord. So 1 E and A. So that's always the pattern for the odd number bars, the first bar, the third bar, and so on. 1 E and A, 1 E and A. So I would practice that for a bit. 1 E and A, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. So that's kind of what he does for the first bar. The second bar, he's dropping the bass note down to B. Starts the same, except he's going, there's no eighth note in there, so it's 1 E and A. So 1 E and A, 2 E and A. So it's on beat 2, so 2 E and A is the pattern. So again, there's the 2 together, thumb and ring finger, thumb and A in classical talk. So 1 E, thumb, index, 1 E and A. So that's kind of the pattern that gets repeated through the different bass lines that he puts in on the C chord. So 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 switch to my pick just to hear that bass line clear. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... That's basically the majority of the song right there. So now on this F chord, he'll do a different thing sometimes, especially when he's not singing. He'll play and he'll add this slur. It's kind of like a Jackson Browne-ism, where he does this quite often in different songs when he's holding an F chord in particular. He'll go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. So he's slurring that. 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... So that's a cool little thing that he puts in the tune, which is creating, again, this sort of counter melody by adding other notes that don't belong to the particular chord at the time. The other thing that you want to take notice of is any repetitive notes in the pattern. If they're on the higher strings, they kind of create this counter melody. And that's created between the top string and the second string. He plays the notes E and C in every bar. So, and the pattern for that would be 1 E and a 2 E. So because I'm using a pick, I'm striking them with my ring finger both times, but if you finger picked it, you would use your middle. It would be between your ring finger and your middle finger. So, but the important thing is that where they're placed in the arpeggio pattern to create that idea of syncopation. Syncopation is when you're playing a strong note on a weak part of the beat, so on the and. So strong, 1 E and a 2 E. That's really important that that comes out strong, and it'll sound like its own melody. 1 E and a 2 E. So it's going E, C, E, C, E, C, E, C. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and it has the effect of sounding like someone else is going 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and... Did I say that already? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... like that. So if you listen for that now... Put that lick in there. Again, if you just give them a bit of an extra push, it'll really help them to sound like you're hearing that syncopation. So that's basically the verse of the tune, the intro of the tune. On the chorus of the tune, he goes, I'll just kind of croak one at you a little bit here. So he goes, well, there it is. I've been out walking. I don't do that much talking these days. These days I seem to think a lot about the things that I forgot to do for you. Okay, so, oh, and then, but all the time, no, all, that's right, F, all the times I had the chance to. Right, sorry about that. So he's going, in that part of it, he goes C over G. And then he goes to a G chord, just one finger G. Same pattern, but he climbs up in the inside string. So he's going D, E, F. So the chord generated here would be a G chord. If I add an E to that chord, G, A, B, C, D, E, it's the sixth note, so it's a G6 chord. And then he goes to an F chord. So it's a G chord with an F in it, so that would be a G7 that has the flatted 7 in it. Like in a G scale, you would go G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So because he's adding a normal F, because the song is in the key of C really, then you're getting a G7th sound. So that kind of tension sound, which is on the 5 chord, the dominant chord. So that part of the song, then he's going C over G, G, climbing up to the 6, climbing up to the flat 7, back to the F. All the times I had the chance to. You could just kind of let that ring. He does, some pauses in there where he's slowing down the tune. So maybe I'll just wrap up by playing it kind of the first verse, I think. I could get through that. Well, I've been out walking. I don't do that much talking these days. These days I seem to think a lot about the things that I forgot to do for you, and all the times I had the chance to. And that's kind of it. You just keep repeating that over and over again. You could take a solo in the middle there by doing some of this, that counter melody on top, like I was saying, which I've heard him do live in some performance. Sometimes he just plays it straight through, and other times it's with a band where he may be, again, just kind of strumming the chords on his acoustic rather than fingerpick it. So I hope that gives some insight into syncopation with the right hand in a counter melody, and also the importance of adding other notes, adding suspended sounds, adding just any other notes that are in key at the time usually work out best to create some interest and a harmony line for the vocal line. So I hope that helps, and have a great day. We'll see you next time. Ciao.